Hello. Okay, so we're just gonna go back through the routine here, and so there's plenty of material on my channel, you know, about basically and the basics of trading. That is, as well as the fundamentals in the broader picture. These aren't just little green and red pictures. There's a whole planet, right, involved, and that is something that some will call a sociological phenomenon, and that would be a sublet of psychology. These are newer terms. In my research, I go all the way back to before history. Um, in order to understand these things, these fundamental phenomena underneath these charts, and understand history, understand the mechanics of what's going on. Economics are sociological. Uh, Spirituality used to be the study of sociology. In fact, spirituality is the original study, and spirit and soul are where the psyche studies come from. Um, I guess today they would be considered maybe philosophy, given this the most respect in this society, Europe and the United States. Still, much of the world, though, would actually respect the terms spiritual or spirit more. And the thing is, though, is that where we're at right now, it's kind of like I'm popping up in this study. Just, this is the time that I awoke in this realm of reality with these human spirits or human psychologies, if you will. And the thing is that when we say this word spiritual or, soul, it, it has the context a lot of times with a lot of people that it means something like a hocus pocus kind of thing. But if I said the thinking spirit, the remembering spirit, the feeling spirit, okay, the doing, the acting, the working spirit, then you can kind of understand what the rest of the world thinks and how the world has thought about this subject, this phenomenon, for the past 10,000 plus years. Okay, and really what it gets down to is that the spirit is a kind of super phenomenon. It's got super properties in that kind of like a superfluid is what I mean. If you put a superfluid in a container, it can climb out. You can't contain superfluids. And spirit, if you think about it, I won't go into it too deeply, but spirit is like that. There's also animal spirit, and the difference is that the human spirit is capable of destroying their own species to extinction. They can destroy the entire world because they're able to access the other phenomena in the environment, which is referred to as God's phenomena. And so pretty much that's how it's referred to in all of the previous studies throughout history, where we would call that the universe these days. But not everybody calls it that. So I know who I'm talking to on both ends of the both sides of the coin. But yeah, so because the human spirit is apt in deriving other phenomena, and because of the super characteristics of the human spirit, it appears that the combination of the two can be well, in my opinion, at least in all of my observations of tens of thousands of hours of work, it appears, and exploration, real life exploration into all kinds of people, actually living with them, and working with them. It appears that that would be perhaps the most volatile phenomena there is, greater than any kind of natural disaster or plague, in time. And we're nearing that time, by the way. But this isn't about all of that right now. But that is how deep this goes. And then you have to understand all the history in order to understand the nature of it. You have to understand the history in order to understand all of the ideological experiments carried out through history to find what works the best for the people, rather than a centralized kind of control government. And it appears that the best track records are found in Christianity, which made Europe for the elites there, which were the royalty, and then they made the Constitution and America. And basically, in their in this Judeo-Christian Western outlook, the idea is that the wisest, most expert is at the top tier. The fools, which can be anybody, they can be derelicts, they can be well-to-do but not well aware. Everybody in between, climbing their way or just meandering in the larger second tier, and then the diabolical in the untouchable tier. And something that would appear related to that would be if you've seen the pyramid of the Hindu caste systems. And caste systems have been very, very common throughout history. It's also something used in ordinary chain of command in militaries, echelons within governments, including the elitist kind in royal monarchies. There's castes, but the big difference was in the East. Pretty much there had always been some kind of paradigm which somebody brought along, and it told people that these people up here that are rich and in power, they can do anything they want because they are born that way, and you are born for their sake. Okay, so if you are in India and you still live in the caste system and you're born an untouchable, you can't climb in that world over there. You're born, you wake up into this realm. This is a realm. There are, it's not a virtual video game, it's the real thing. And then everybody, wherever you go, has the paradigm where no matter how well or good you climb the escalator higher, or the ladder higher in your life, to better everybody else and thus better yourself, because that's how it's done. You are an untouchable because of who you're born as. And so they think that's karmatic, and they think that there's reincarnation, which is all a bunch of reprobate stuff, just to basically keep the masses down while the royalty lives up the high life. They are the Brahmins. And, basically that's how it is in all Europe and Russia and China and Africa and Latin America. You've got this kind of Brahmin top part, and then you've got the middle part, and then you've got the outsiders that are either foreign or they aren't they don't speak the language, or they just aren't in the religion. They believe other religions in some cases. Those would be the people that break the rules of the religion or the law. Same thing. It's the same thing. Politics and religion are the same thing. The difference is, though, is that like Socrates, Jesus had come along, fulfilled a prophecy, endorsed Judaism, the history of Judaism, which is basically the Old Testament, and then they made the New Testament. And when these guys protest, they are standing up against this illogical order of tiers. So why should diabolicism be at the top tier, whereas virtue should be at the bottom tier? Because they don't think exactly alike. That didn't make any sense to these outstanding protesters. This is like Martin Luther King Jr. doing the same thing, Lincoln doing the same thing, Andrew Jackson doing the same thing to the central banks, so on and so forth. Some people pop up here and there all throughout history, and it seemed like more and more of them started popping up as Europe progressed in their capitalistic developments, which weren't wholly capitalistic, but they were doing the best they could under monarchies. And then when the U.S. came around with the Constitution, it seemed like they really got it together where they could do a really good job of filtering out the diabolical, from the middle caste, what I call fools. That's just how we are. I mean, that's just how that is the hard concrete. It's the step up onto the sidewalk, right as rock, the way that this place is, and that's how it's going to be until I expire. And it's something I had to learn. I actually had to learn it the hard way, which is the best way, perhaps. But the thing is, though, is that you can see where the filtering is done, where slaves are freed, women are given equal rights, and these sort of things. In that, what that means is that you're not supposed to be, it's just illogical in our westernized, like I explained, in our westernized paradigm, mass paradigm, to chastise somebody to the third tier caste of civilization for having done nothing diabolical, even though that person may be very wise. So in so doing, what we do is, we freed up everybody. We allowed business owners, talented people, researchers, and so forth to do their thing. And so this is how we became so powerful. Then all the smart people in the world came here because of that fact, because they couldn't do that out there. They would automatically be usurped. Because why? Because the diabolical ruled the top tier. Okay? And so as long as they rule the top tier, they control the laws. Therefore, they control the military, they control the police, they control the money. Literally, the money. Right? They can take away money, they can put more money in, they can take whatever they want, your land, your business, your family, your children. If they got it, that's what they'll do. And if they need you to run it, then they'll let you have some of it. And that's how it works. Or it worked, and it still works that way out there. In fact, a lot of people live in the bubble, they don't know. But this internet is bringing it all forward. It's rougher out there than what I ever thought. I thought the world was a lot nicer already, but in fact, it's about as bad as what's happening in that Bible. which is 2,000 years old. You know, the wicked politics and murderers and deceit, like in Greek history and Roman history, you know, which is more than 2,000 years old. So, and it's not, you know, it's not just a European thing. It's a global thing, and it's still mighty savage out there. It's kind of savage around here. I think I went on too long here, though. But yeah, so basically what it is ideology and spirit. And so the way the ideology affects spirit, plus other external circumstances, begets a reaction from spirit, from our spirit. And basically what men and women have done for thousands of years is learn to trick them with lies, myths, deceit, and fear, especially fear, in order to make themselves rich. So basically they put themselves at top. They're born to be served by the masses, and they kept this going on for thousands of years, and that was the big trick. It was a big study. It wasn't like they would just go around telling everybody this, and even if you learned it, it was probably already late in life, and you didn't know much or wasn't rich enough or anything like that, so, you know, there wasn't really anything you could say, so you don't hear about it. But now you got the internet, so it's coming to the top. I mean, I'm here, I'm saying it, I've done my research for tens of thousands of hours. It's coming to the top. And, you know, it's all within the economics, it's all within the mass paradigm, the trends, the politics, the business, the military, the education systems, you know, and then it comes out into the technologies, and I could go on into that. But for the most part, it's a sociological event. Spirit is sociological. You know, money is a belief, right? If I say something is worth $10, it's because I believe it's worth $10. It's not worth $10 except by my own belief. And as long as you believe that it's worth $10 or more, or however the deal works out, and you buy it, okay. But if it's worth $1 to you, then you don't have to pay it. But the way that the the Brahmins, or the diabolical usurpers that get to the top and control all the money and the laws, which is the rules of the religion, the laws are virtually the same thing. You really got to be flexible to understand how those things work. And so we're in that revolution. That's what this Christian constitutional internet cryptocurrency blockchain kind of thing is. I'll just give you that. So if you get up to the top and you control all those things, then well, gosh, I lost my place. It's kind of early this morning for me. Really good coffee. Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my place. I better just get back to the charts here. I'll continue on that without getting too deeply into that kind of stuff. Sorry about that. In further videos, free videos, folks. So, okay, let's take a look at some charts. All right, so today's the day of the Fed, and I don't really like trading today, simply for the fact that it's very unpredictable. You know, there's a lot of potential energy in the market. You know, they say that there's potential energy in a rock that's at the edge of a cliff because it could fall over. And that when it falls over, the energy, you know, is there. And so all these algorithms and listeners, you know, they're all honing on each little word, each little moment, surrounded by the Federal Reserve today. And as soon as they hear those, they automatically do one thing or another. And it's not automatically supposed to be that they do nothing, right? So there's a lot of energy built up. They could do nothing, but it's not an automatic assumption that they will do nothing. This market would rock around. And, well, it looks like there's a good trade right there, right here on the chart. But so the thing is that they mighty calm in the market today. The crowd's just not very enthused. There's not a lot of rocking around. See, the oil's moved all of 30 cents today. So we got a big quick tail right there, right? So that means that the crowd down here was mighty hungry for long crude, and then you got a little one right there, okay, and then you got this one right. You got this little higher low, okay. So this is a good time to buy, and you can basically consider. You consider that right there. You can consider that. That would be a good trade. This is 10 cents right here between this line and this line. That's $100 per contract. That's pretty good. So, if you can nick out a piece like that, I'll tell you something. Let me tell you something. When the market's meandering like this, okay, that's what I like best. I like it when the market's meandering, because what it's saying is that there's something about it that's getting weak. And what happens is it usually meanders until, one, it either hits a bunch of stops and that starts a chain reaction. So we can see that this thing, while it's meandering down, because you got to consider this right here. Right? See these little deals? In fact, this thing continues all the way down here. I think they call this one a flag. This is some kind of flag or wedge. I don't follow that stuff too much. I've kind of figured everything out my own way, pretty much. So the thing is, though, is that what you've got here is you've got one test down here in this area. Then it meanders around. I mean, this is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, right? And this is mighty slow as well. Then it does a little test right here, and it doesn't work. Okay, and this is you see the bear claws, right? These are bear claws. Okay, these quick wicks on the top. Okay, it keeps trying higher, comes down, and then it tries this again, though. Okay, and then it comes back up, and it's just not working. And then this one tells you right there that it's just not able to get down there. It can't sink down there. There's a bunch of buy orders right there. Okay, so it becomes safer. Right, and there's a way that you can take a long position and then hedge yourself against it at the same time and make some money. In fact, you could do that kind of thing, hedging yourself here, and actually roll up all these little up and down movements, and then actually have extra more than what you would lose if you were wrong on this, or if you were short on this. Right, so maybe you were short because you were reading it like this. It looks like it's falling off. Right, but you got to look at this right here, right? It's falling down. You got big volume right here on this doji, long doji, the long tail. That's a bull right there, right? That's a bullhorn right there. And so you've got to listen to that. That means that down here is bull territory, right? So as soon as price comes down there again, and it did, it tested it, and automatically, through the chutes. And the way I trade, I don't intend on holding a long time. I know some people that do very well at that, And basically, I think that their motto is that if it's not going 30 ticks or something like that, if it's not going a ways, or they just figure they can hold on to it until the charts tell them that it's not going any further. But if it's not going that much, across the screen, then why even bother? They'll just look for another one if they were wrong on it. And, see there? That's what happens. It comes down here, down to the bulls. Oh, no. This is 7:30, so... Yeah, this is, well, maybe not. Maybe not. It's not 7:30 yet. It's, looks like 7:20. Nope, 7:30. Okay. All right. Looks like the algos were hit. Why don't we take a look at CNBC, see what they're saying. Not saying anything, huh? Well, holy smokes. Look at that. Well, we'll get the news here shortly. And if I don't get it now, I'll get it tomorrow. So anyway, yeah, so that's the U.S. Central Bank. And, it's a private bank, folks. It's not a government institution. It's a corporation. But it's even worse than a corporation. It's a foreign embassy. It's a foreign embassy suite. And they import our money supply. Yeah, that's right. Our money is not our money. It's the global central bank empires. You won't hear that name anywhere, but that's what you call something like that. They are all over the world, in nearly every country, and they import the money to them all, and that's how they control the world. So anyway, they've got over 1 billion deaths on their ticket, and for no good reason other than greed, other than those Brahmins, those royal elitist Brahmins, like I explained, and their intentions. Yeah, we're all just born for them. They originate out of London and Frankfurt, Germany, by the way. Well, anyway, you know what? This might be. This seems like it's a little bit early for the Federal Reserve announcements here. This sounds like seems like a natural gas report or something like that, an oil. What do they call it? It's a oil inventory report, that kind of thing. I think that's what happened here. This is the oil market. See there? CO. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, if the Fed said something, the S&P 500 would do something here, but it's just meandering. See there? This is why I don't even trade this thing anymore. What has it moved? $4? Let's see if we could have traded it. Not at all. Not at all. At least not yet. There's nothing there. Let's take a look at the NQ NASDAQ. If it's... Let's see. Hey, I'll just use this. And it looks like there's some trades on the NASDAQ. This right here looks interesting. But again, folks, I'll tell you, trade lightly or don't trade at all in the few days before these central bank announcements, the big ones. And on the day of their announcements, maybe don't even trade at all. Maybe. It's up to you if you see trades. Okay, don't have high hopes. Right? Don't get too involved where you're losing everything and it's really starting to hurt you, because you're not the only one, right? On days like that, the market will fool everybody evenly. Well, look at that. That's the gold. Well, here's what happened with the gold. The central bank is on today, so looks like there was probably a short squeeze and some bulls picking up. It might start to fall off there. I don't know. What I'm seeing there is that this didn't quite touch support. That's support, obviously. This is where the thing rested the most, and then it also bounced off of that right there. So it knocked on the ceiling here, and then it bounced on the ceiling twice there. And I would say that this is resistance right here. So, if this is going to continue to be bullish, and that's kind of what it looks like to me, although the MACD's already back down into the red here, maybe that's just a lot of profit taking, but what I'm seeing is that it pivoted well above this blue E-money line, or the 34 EMA line, and it actually pivoted above support right here. So both are bullish signals, but you can see here with these tiny little moves like this that this is getting very bored, and not too interested in that one. I don't know. And with the Fed coming on, it could be irrational. So who else? How about the euro? Wow. Wait a minute. Almost looks like the gold. But it's not. And it appears I'm gonna go ahead and get these out of here. I used to use CCI and RSI a little bit. Then they kind of became unreliable. So that'll give these bars a little bit more voice, so I can hear the crowd a little bit better, if you can kind of understand that in an artistic way. So we've got support right here. You can see the bounce. You can see the higher low right here. Higher low. higher low. Okay. So at that one right there, I would be interested in figuring out something. And so let me explain how that goes. And I think I'm going to wrap this one up today early, which is good because I'm pretty sure that people only have got so much time per day before they want to do something. But let's see here. I'm going to put this on, what are we? 6E. Okay, I'm going to do that with this one. Okay, so what's going on here is that oh, here we go. We got another. Let me fix this first. Okay, we've got another higher low, and then this is going to come in as support probably. Now here's what you do. All right. Which one is my focus? Okay, so this one's my focus right here. This is my focus trade. And this one is not. And if I take, first of all, if I take a look at my MACD here, it appears that there was a lot of positive buying over selling, and that's called delta. It's basically the ratio of buyers to sellers. So this is called volume, but within volume there is buying and selling, and this gives you an idea of that kind of breadth. I believe they call that breadth. And, or at least that was the old term. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up on that right there. Okay. So I'm going to put my stop down here at support, which is 126.33, which is actually quite a ways down here. That's okay, unless it bolts away and gets away. 120, what? Can't believe how far that is. This thing really moved today, I guess. Huh. Alright, we'll play pretty big on this one. I guess... yeah. 125.80. If it'll work. What happened? Oh. Okay. It stopped me out. There we go, finally. Alright, so that thing is, we've got to stop down here at this support line, okay, and I've got a target up here near the top, and that's just right. That's about where I put the target. Now this green line right here represents the top or the high of the day, and I usually put my target somewhere in that vicinity. I don't like to be anywhere like even with it because a lot of times the market doesn't come all the way up to the top. So, and then if it starts bouncing off of this is support, right? Once it gets over the top, it's support. Right now it's resistance, right? And that's the reason why I don't like to put my stop right on resistance, because it's resistance. If it makes a double top, a lot of times it doesn't even reach the top again, and so then I miss, and then I lose money because it starts falling away from me. And but if this thing is going to go up and then bounce off support, then I'll take another trade. Now, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and this is the intent over here is to try to get some of the downward move on this, okay, and just pick up, you know, ticks here and ticks there, okay, and start trying to add up something. Now you can see that these are one contract trades, okay. It's on the same market, by the way, and this is sim. It's not money. I'm not going to trade money on these videos, so what I'm going to do is pick up these little ticks, a few ticks at a time, and as you can see, if you keep on doing this, it adds up, right? So, you know, if in fact, I think I want to move this up to about 128.83. Really, it's all the way up there. Jeez. Nah. Gonna leave it at that. Okay, so now I picked up a little piece of that, right? Okay. So now this one's closed, but this one's open. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this thing to come down, and that way I can get this lower, you know, I can get another contract in at from a lower point, you know. And so I actually embrace the vigor from the market, so that way I'm not stopping out right here. You know, if it goes against me just a little ways, then I can get out. I'm embracing the vigor, and I want to get in lower. Okay. Now this is my opportunity to catch another down drift, or if I don't get this one right here, okay, then it's going to break out, right? This could break out, okay. And if it breaks out, that's not losing money, okay. That's funding myself, okay. That's no problem. It's really tempted, it looks like. So as you can see, just a few ticks over here on the focus trade. It's not really much to go on. Okay, so now it drops back down, and let's see if I can draw another. And I can do this over and over and over. Okay, got it. So there's two I got. All right. So now this thing over here on my focus trade, even if this thing is wrong, okay, I'm already 8 ticks up against that. So that's like basically I can allow this trade to come back to here before I'm stopped out, but really I'm only going to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right here. Right, so this I've made back. Now it's still quite a ways. All right, so there's some more work to be done here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this thing doesn't want to come in down on this right here. And so I'm going to, which basically means that if I'm hedged, Excuse me. I'm hedged. I'm sorry. I sit in an awkward position when I'm doing this. I'm not on like one of those balls or standing up or anything. But if I hedge here, that means that whatever this does on the way down, then I'm not losing. The thing is, though, is I actually keep my target fairly cinched up, so that way I'm catching the little pieces over and over again, right? Because because I never know if this thing is going to go for, a big swoon down, or is it just going to be a little piece. And in my experience, normally it's just going to be a little piece and then it'll go back up, but it'll do it over and over and over again. And I'd rather take advantage of that little gyration over and over again, as opposed to trying to get big pieces. And if I were to work this thing as a longer trade, where I'm taking profits down here, even, then basically I'll never get anything. I gotta keep on reminding people that every time the market moves up and down, okay, you could have a trade one way or another, right? And or both. You could have both waves, and what's happening is that the money is just rocking back and forth into your basket, right? Like a lot of people don't know, but in places like Asia, South Asia, they weave together baskets. And then what they do is they make it so that it kind of bottlenecks at the open. And the fish will go into the basket, but then the fish can't get back out because that's the way that the opening is. And the thing is, though, is that the way that we're doing it is kind of similar. Should I say it's similar? And in that that this rocking back and forth, the money is just rocking back and forth, but there's no way to keep it in. You got to develop a way. You got to weave a strategy to be able to catch as much of it as it comes into your basket. Every time it moves, it's in your basket. If you were catching it, it adds up. And so, I've got the long one over here, right, to catch the big ones, and then I've got the little one over here to catch the little ones. Okay. And so, in my experience, generally I'm more satisfied with little ones over and over and over again. If this thing ticks up just a little bit more, that would be excellent. It does look like it's still working up, doesn't it? It looks like it's a little bit higher here, a little bit higher. So in my experience, the little bitty rocking back and forth is more profitable and less risky. That's the thing. You can say that big moves are more profitable, but are they less risky? That's my main concern. When you have a lot of capital supply, which is not who I'm teaching. I'm not teaching people that have a lot of capital supply. Okay. I mean, you can learn too if you do happen to listen. But in general, that's not the case. And so, we've got to be able to pick it out from the very bottom. And that's been my intention ever since I wanted to teach, was to make the most poor person able to climb the ladder of capitalism. And, here we go. Now, if that it was so close. See there, if I would have just taken that one as a 3, there we go. Okay, so that's 3 now. Okay, so that's 12 ticks. Okay, so technically this is about up here now. Okay, and I want to make sure that 127.60. So if this thing bolts to the south, I'm going to catch a piece of that too. Okay. So anyway, back to the main idea. Okay, so yeah, maybe big positions are more big trades are more profitable. Okay, but the thing is, you have to always include the risk. If you don't include the risk and saving money, which is basically the same thing, right? You're budgeting a book, you're budgeting a balance. And if you don't include that foot at the same time, then what you wind up doing is you start spinning in circles because you're going after big trades, and then you wind up always hitting your risk wall, your risk limitations, and then you lose it all, or even more. And actually, that's exactly what happens. You lose even more than what you made, and the reason why is because what gets basically all traders at the beginning is that they make really good trades somehow, some way, and they don't understand anything. They don't understand the crowd. They don't understand the big macro economic picture. They don't understand these domes and what these are. They don't know how these work. They don't know what these guys back here, they alone, or their computers back there too, what are they capable of? What is their routine? And so it's kind of like you're in a not a cage match, but basically the same thing, a ring fight, and you don't know anything about combinations. You don't know how defenses work. None of that, and that's what's happening here. And so you've got to learn how to go with it, not necessarily against it. The way that you go against it is you just avoid the risk, right? And so what happens is these traders, they wind up catching a big trade, and then they try it again and they lose it, and then they try it again and they lose it again. And the reason why is because they don't know how to defend themselves against the risk. They don't know how to block for that. So, you can punch, but can you block, right? It's kind of like Kim Jong-un. He can shoot nuclear missiles, but can he defend, right? He can't defend. See, so he has to be very careful, and he is being more careful. But you see how that's a two-stroke deal, right? V2 stroke engine. One piston pops up, that's your progress, that's your gain, your profit. Here we go. And then the other one pushes down, right? And that's supposed to be your defense. You got to eliminate the risk, okay? Eliminating risk is profiting. If you just went into a cage match, or so I lost one of those, but this is gaining over here though. So this may be to my advantage. It may be breaking out. Right, so if you just go into one of these, sports fights, or really any sport, and you're just a one-sided deal where you're just trying to take gains, but you're not able to last because I was one tick off on that. But you're not able to last because you get all broken up, then you might have a really great offense, but you fall apart because you get so beat up from the other side's offense, and that's what this is. You can really make really big trades, but then when it comes down to handling your risk, saving your money, budgeting, you got to know the techniques. You gotta stop thinking, "Hey, I'm a big shot. This is who I am." You're not a Brahmin. You're not some hallucinating cultist on a throne with a scepter with all the great cars. Perhaps you've got great cars, and perhaps you've got gold devices. But the thing is, though, is that I'll tell you something. The facts, they don't need believers. And you can leave the facts, and if you can survive that way, so be it. But that's just proving that believers don't need facts either. So you got to come down to objective reality, no matter who you are. This is not who you are, right? The fighter, the professional fighter, is not somebody that goes in and says, "I am the fighting world," or I'm everybody out there. No, that professional fighter is somebody that's inside. The same thing with any musician or speaker and so on and so forth. Everybody looks to these people that are noteworthy and out in front, and they think that they are these big glory hounds. And like as if they go up there in front of everybody, and then they somehow they're in everybody, right? I am in everybody. No, that's not how it works. The fools do that. It appears that they do that, right? But that's not what they do. They stay within themselves, and they advance themselves based on logic, the cues of objective reality, and they carefully measure them. They also carefully measure their own internal mechanisms, their own spiritual mechanisms. They're most aware of those inside. Because they have to know, okay, if they're thinking something, why are they thinking that? So they have to understand themselves very well as well. And you'll hear this all throughout the trading world, that much of the power of the good trader is based on is starts where traders really understand themselves inside. And so that's what this part of the conversation is about right now. It's not getting fooled by who you think you are, right? That's kind of what gamblers do, I think. Sure, it's normal, I used to be a baseball player, and I used to be an arborist, tree climber, tree rigger, knocking down trees as big or bigger than buses, swinging branches as long as buses, over power lines and over houses and stuff like that with crews. And dump trucks and chippers and stuff. Big chainsaws, 6 foot long. And I had the advantage in that because I could be that, that big hero kind of guy, and that's kind of who I was. And I've pumped more iron, thrown and hit more baseballs, and hurled and climbed more trees than most people. But there are people that have done more than me, of course. But I probably went farther than is required for the Navy SEALs training, and that was just because I wanted to be the best that there was. Turns out I didn't make any money at it, but I worked that hard, is what I'm saying. I put my body through some tough tests and just kept on putting it there. And basically, I'm kind of a spiritual person, and I would just become my spirit and ride the horse that is my body, and I would put it through everything that I possibly could without ruining it, making it sharper, faster, more aware, stronger, more resilient, endurant, stanomatic, powerful, learning everything I could, teaching it, so on and so forth. But the thing was that it all started with me wanting to be, that kind of glory hound. And then after years, it became something else. It became kind of like kind of like a guru that likes to find the zone, the peace zone, and that's where I liked to be. And it always involved a lot of work, and then eventually it involved a lot of business work, you know. And then it just involved a lot of business, which is where I'm at now. Okay, but the thing is, though, is after I got past that glory hound stage in my life, then it just became the path that I chose to walk or actually run. Okay, so fortunately back then, the more of that glory-seeking kind of spirituality, right? Spirit, it has to do with the thinking, feeling, remembering, creative phenomenon inside of you. That's what spiritual is, okay? The more that I got into the glory thing, the more powerful I became, because the more hard work, the more hours and days and months and years that I would involve myself into what I was doing, what I was making of myself, right? And then when I got to trading, when I came to trading, it was something else. I had never done anything where the work was being patient. Researching and patience is 90% of the work. Look how many times I've traded, right? Do you see a lot of opportunities today? Not really. So, now if I was trading like I used to trade, I would be trading all over the place. I'd be trying this and that and too many trades. And that's where I get caught up because I'm not handling the risk. So it's a different kind of work, and this is not about me. This is just analyzing facts. It's not me at all. No matter how many things I can buy or how many people I can summon with their talents, summon their talents. Okay, that's beside the point. That's not what this is. That's not, I don't make huge, big trades without a really scrutinizing defense against risk, which is just facts. It's not who I am. I am not trading. I am me. I mean, I am trading, but I am not the thing here that we're looking at. Okay. And a lot of people try to teach you about meditation and all these different things, and they really don't solve that problem. And that's what it is. It's just people, I know from personal experience, it's just you get into this mode and you're thinking, well, because I am who I am. I'm I just made, these big trades, and so that's just how people are. I just pocketed 10 G's. So I am who I am. Or I pocketed 10 million. And therefore they start to base their trades and their investments on that. Like they're invincible. It's like the crazy cultists from down in Mexico or LA or Africa or the Middle East over there. They they do these things in order to gain these powers and make it so that they have a saving grace. But that's not what it's about. It's about living practically, right? Within the means of reality and the long-term picture for your family and for your people, right? Not some crazy murder scheme. I mean, these people, they cut people up into pieces no matter how old they are. Whether they're pregnant, they eat them. They have sex with the dead bodies, raping, torture. It's just, you can imagine all the horror, torture, killer movies, right? The worst kind. And this is what they do in order to become this person, this thing that has saving grace, and then they're going to be invincible. And what actually happens is that there are leaders that are conducting this. Now, the leaders, they know what they're doing. They know that this is all nonsense, but they get these people to do this stuff, and so now they're fearless, and that's where really, really what they do. And so it's kind of like if I was to enchant you or charm you so that you take very big trades, okay? And then you lose. Well, in their world, you go to jail or you die. The thing is, though, is if they ain't dead, then they're still trying to do these very big trades, and so they go to jail all the time, right? And while they're inside jail and outside of jail, they're still killing people, robbing people, killing people, and they're still working for the masters. And the masters now have this market I call fib markets, which are based on fibs or myths. Like socialism is based on myth, but it's a big market. Same thing with global warming. It's based on myth. It's worldwide, though. It's worth $100 trillion, according to Al Gore, who actually started the myth. And but the main thing is that what they do is they trick the fools into believing the myths, and now they're invincible because they're right. They're right with the universe, right? With the overlying superstructure, right? So some call it God, or some call it different things. Some call it the universe. Some call it the world, etc. Right? And so, this is a world, but and then because they're right by that, they are invincible. But then they don't have the other side of the coin where they're going to manage risk, right? And so what they get these people to do is walk over cliffs for them. So they're not looking out for the best interests of these people. They're just trying to usurp them, which means exploit them, okay? Even their lives, right? And then what about their victims, right? People that believe that there's a climate change happening, right? There are the victims of those believers, right? Because we lose all of our jobs, our economy, our politicians, the way we do businesses. Who knows what we lose? I mean, eventually what happens when you ruin your entire capitalist economy, you wind up becoming a feudalistic state with wars all the time, and it's the crazy gurus at the top still doing what they have done for 10,000 years. We're trying to get away from that, right? We're in the 180 revolution against all that, okay? Looks like this one's about to break out. Well, there's 2 I've lost. Now I'm back to even, but would you look at that? I'm going to take this down to here. This MACD is starting to come back up, and that's kind of got me worried a little bit. See, this is where it starts to get expensive, and I kind of get worried about that. So I might have to take a little bit of loss here. But it's little loss, right? Um, so, um, so that's how you have it. Now, the thing is about criminality or diabolicism, okay, is that people's minds get hacked. You know, you can hack your own mind. Yeah, you can hack your own mind, and you can cause yourself to hallucinate, which people do. This is really testing me. Now, I don't want to start doubling up on this, a whole bunch, because I would rather take a little loss than take the risk and try to really, scoop a good trade out of this. Um, I got to keep the losses small. If basically it's just, if I'm wrong, I want it to be cheap. I don't want an expensive mistake. So anyway, yeah. So the way that these diabolical myth schemes work is that you got to figure it like this. Look at it like a witch, right, with the witch hat and everything in front of a boiling brew of nonsense, and it's whatever she says it is, like the price of anything, right? The price of everything in the store is so and so, and it can be much less than what you bought it for, or much more than what you bought it for. Uh, can be ridiculous prices, but it's whatever the witch says, and that's what's in the pot, the boiling pot, the witch's brew. Okay, and then there's all the followers out there, and she's enchanting them with the words. She's bewitching them with words, and that's one of the big problems of the world is that people get bewitched, they get hacked. Okay, and then they're all brave and they're justified and they go conquering other lands, raping the children and the women, disemboweling the boys and the men, and burning down the villages and looting everybody. And then where is it getting? They're just destroying everything, right? They're not even making anything, they're just destroying. But the thing is, though, is a lot of them get killed. So the witch not only gets those people over there killed in order to get rich and have more land, because these people have chosen this witch as their idol. This is their goddess. And that's actually very unique in this world where people wind up finding out that they are other people's mythical, supernatural entity. Like, there it is in the flesh. This has happened time and time again. It's not just a statue or an article, artifact, or just a mere concept, or drawings and candles on the floor or whatever. No, it's actually this person. And so the thing is, though, is that they go out there and they conquer all this, and then all of a sudden they've done the right spiritual thing, but the master of this, the actual demon inside of this witch, is usurping their spirits, the power of their phenomena, that super phenomena, and then she gets all of the land. She gets all of the people, and she divvies out to who's the most wicked and loyal and capable, right? The wisest, right? So the ones that have mastered this are closest to the top. And then, because they're more loyal and that kind of thing. Now, to be honest with you, I could be buying these every time this came down here. I could be buying these over here, and then selling one up here. But the problem is that I've got my stop way down there, and if I pick up two, right, twice as much, right, 2 loads, then that could be a very bad loss, and I'm not interested in that. So now if I can get this thing to knock back down here somewhere, then I'll pick up another one over here on my focus trade, and if it comes back up here to break even somewhere, then I will relinquish one of those contracts, and so that way my entry is down here. So that's just how it works. If I buy one here, and then I buy one here, but then the price goes back up here to where I bought the first one, then I can get rid of one, which is the same as that first one that I bought. So this one is off of my books at break even, and now I've got the lower, the lower contract, and then in that case, if price does not work out and it goes through here, then I'm not losing all of this. I'm just losing this, right? Because my stop is down here. So I just lose this instead of all of this. And I'll keep on going through this strategy, until, whenever. And if you keep on following the videos, it'll eventually sink in. It'll become natural to you, and you'll get quick at it. It'll be as quick as how you pull out your house keys or your car keys, and then you start the car and get in the door. You don't even really think about it anymore. It's just something you whip and do. So the point of that story is that there are bewitched people all the time that survive. Okay, and out of all of the deaths in the world, I believe that they are probably more are to do with bewitched people than non-bewitched people. Okay. And that's in the last 10,000 years of noted history. And the thing is that somebody always lives. Do you understand? I'll give you an example. I've nearly died at least 9 times, something like 8, maybe 7 or 8 or 9, maybe even 12. I don't know. I lose count. I'm always working so much and drinking so much coffee. I'm not, refreshing my memory all the time. So I don't know. But I know of some, without ever forgetting. And one of the times was I had fallen out of a tree while I was an arborist. And I think it was in my first or second year. And I was using a gear that was substandard. And basically the mechanism on the thing, I guess I didn't secure right. Or maybe, well, it had to have been me because there's no other way it could have happened. So I didn't secure this substandard gear right, which would have worked, and it worked for a while because I was making sure to secure it right. Well, I fell out of the tree, and all around the tree there was logs and rocks and yard sprinklers and that kind of thing. And there was only one place down there that was just as long as my body. And not only that, it was on an incline, right, so that my feet were lower than my head, which is kind of good because I was standing. That's how you how you climb with spikes. You spike up a tree and you're standing in it, and that's how I was up there, about 25, 30 feet. And, and then I had my gear on. I had the big chainsaw on and everything. And I landed perfectly in that zone, right? And, the thing is that this is, in my own experience, what I'm trying to say happens to people is that when you haven't died and you've nearly died so many times, it almost becomes euphoric. It becomes exciting. Not that you die, but it becomes exciting or euphoric that you can't die. That you've avoided death so many times. And if you're, any kind of religious person at all, even if you're not normally a religious person, but you'll wind up with an esoteric kind of faith that you're not meant to die, and that this realm doesn't allow you to die, because everybody's mystified. Very few people are going to say, okay, well, that was a coincidence again. Okay, very few people are that, far into their studies. Most everybody else is too busy with their social activities and their work. And so the thing is, though, is that's what I felt. Now, I had amnesia for a day, but for the next few days, after I started coming to, after a few hours that day, I still didn't remember everything until another day. But after I started coming through and I learned what happened, it was kind of exciting to me. And this is what I was realizing, was that, I'm a Christian. I'm thinking, well, I've really got some things to do here. This is what God has done for me. And God, like I said before, is this universe, right? The one that makes truth, not the one that simply moves truth. Everybody can move truth, but nobody can make truth at all. Everything is from a construct of this universe, which, is made by something, and then, the thing is about that argument is that a lot of people will go, oh, well, come on. This is just some hullabaloo, and we're just hullabaloo. Okay, but then legally and within everybody's family, we're not, well, most people's families, and by most laws, at least around here, we're not just hullabaloo, right? We're people, we are entities. I mean, even animals are protected by the law now. People protect their animals like never before. And, so the thing is, though, is where is the line between what is an entity or being and not, How many different phenomena are there? I mean, that, if you're a scientist or a philosopher, that road is very long and complex. And then you start getting to mysteries which can never be solved. A problem can be solved, right? We can figure out problems. But mysteries, we can't. Then you get into quantum physics, spooky physics, like Einstein called it. And then, so if we're not just hullabaloo, okay, then perhaps this place that we're in is not just hullabaloo, right? Okay, so maybe there's more to it than that. And if it's all quantum, which is kind of like the super phenomenon of spirit, right, then maybe there's more to this quantum spirit stuff than what we know in our present form here. Maybe, right? Doesn't apply to economics. Okay, and facts don't need believers, and believers don't need facts. Faith is what faith is. And faith about that price, about that value, it's your own. And my own is my own, and that's the way it's always gonna be. And I've lived by it and I survived by it. The thing is, though, is my point is that some people have survived by diabolical beliefs, you know, and they continuously believe that because of those beliefs that is why they are succeeding and succeeding, and they feel like I felt that day, that they have triumphed in this universe, this spirit place, etc. However everybody calls it, and they have beaten the odds. They have found destiny. They are the perfect number or something, right? Out of all of the odds, they have beaten the odds right down on the most rare number, right? Like winning the lottery, just miraculous. And so when you have those miraculous experiences, it's empowering, and it can be highly influential. I'm not even thinking while I'm speaking. Highly influential. And so what happens is that sometimes they just keep on climbing and climbing. And where do they climb to? They climb to more power. They climb up the tier levels, up the tier levels of power, right? They become more and more wise. They put things more and more together. And so if they've survived by evil, a lot of times they wind up at those top tiers. Once they get up there, they start getting rid of all of the people that are anti-diabolical, anti-usurpation. And so that's when civilization starts to crash down, because everybody at the top is teaching everybody at the bottom that, hey, you're bad because you're good, and then the whole civilization flips over, and all of the actual values of practical living, practical making things, teaching people to be practical rather than bewitched by lies, and also be fooled with deception and diversions. Right, so that civilization doesn't wind up in a big pile of fools, which walks over the edge of the cliff together, in a big ceremony. Right? That's how spiritual hacking can work. It can happen. It's done it for 10,000 years over and over all over the world, and I have no doubt that more people have died as a result of it than not. I believe that more people have killed for having been spiritually hacked than people have killed out of defense of their families and their people or their property, right? Who hadn't stole it. So, who you believe you are has a lot to do with your experiences, what you've been taught, and then what you can think of in the meantime. And so the lesson here is just that when you're trading as a new trader, I want you to always just remember that you're not some great and glorious rich person like you've seen on TV. And I know that what's on TV and what's in the music and the magazines and so on and so forth, even video games, when we're growing up, those can be very enchanting, and it can affect how you perceive everything that you do and everything that you see and who you see and what they do. And it can be completely obsolete as well as completely diabolical. So, either way, you don't really want to deal with too much obsolete stuff. You don't want to get in trouble with diabolical stuff because, you're just going to grind to zero. Everybody gets caught like that, and you don't want to be somebody that actually succeeds like that, because really all you're doing is you're making things worse. You're not making anything. You got to make stuff for people to make it. In the case of this job right here, you're making people's dreams come true in that you're able to manage money logically, and then you're able to, fund things. So, for instance, if your dream was to build a stone church out of a mountain in Montana, then you could afford to do that, and that church will last for 10,000 years, right? You could afford to start baseball teams for the kids. You can raise a family as well as possible without them getting into troubles and things that wind up ruining the rest of their dreams for the rest of their lives. You can afford medical expenses and that kind of thing. But most of all, you're able to be there when the great people that add to this community come along, and maybe they need some fostering, maybe they need some counseling, maybe they just need some capital in order to start a business or a service, or to complete a broken bridge in your town. Maybe it fell in and there's not enough money, maybe society collapsed, but we got to have this bridge. Well, who would have that? Some capitalist that was successful, who managed right, had saved precious metals, and so was able to come together with the right people the right way and get it done for everybody. So that's how this works. There is usurpation in businesses. There's usurpation, not all businesses, not even nearly all businesses, just some. And there's usurpation in money handling, like the banks, like the hedge funds, and so on. There's also usurpation in government places, the monarchies, the democratic republics, everywhere. It's everywhere. There's always gonna be some, but we're trying to do our best to filter out who's diabolic and who's a fool, in the 3 tiers, okay? And hopefully we are left with as many top tier wise experts as possible at the top. And that's the main objective. I had a person come to me saying that this job was sinful because of the diabolicism of the central banks, the crony capitalists which bribe the government to do bad against the people, and they use these markets. And this is somebody that likes to shove his nails down some of our veterans, patriots, and other priests' throats with his perception of the Bible. So this is an uppity guy, and he's got no experience in the real world. He reminds me a lot of Karl Marx, who was very anti-capitalist, but at the same time, he never held a job in his life, never paid back any of his debts, wouldn't even pay his maid, which lived in his house, had affairs, extramarital children. It appears that he had killed one of them, wouldn't acknowledge the other ones, all kinds of things like this. He was just this gnarly, swindling scumbag. But his whole plight is that the workers are unfairly corralled into something that they're not voluntarily working in, right? When that's not even the case. People go to these jobs to trade their energy and their time. They're the brokers of their energy and their time. And then whatever they do with that at that job, the bosses go, okay, well then I'm going to broker what you guys just traded me. Okay, I'm going to give you your share, and then I'm the middleman between who's going to actually buy what you make. Right? That's what the bosses do. But the bosses also manage the budgets, the real estate, the equipment, the safety things, the taxes. Right, and he had no idea any of this. And he didn't care either, because that's not what he was about. He was about those central bankers, printing money, Ponzi schemes, basically what would be considered ransomware for taxes, to actually receive the taxes of nations, which they do. They do that all around the world. It's the global central bank empire. So he was part of that in the early years. But this fella ramming the Bible down people's throats like handfuls of nails was saying that this practice that we do is sinful. And then he quotes things which are not, they don't accurately apply to this work. Okay. So basically, this is trading. Okay. This is facilitating other trade within other dimensions of the economy where bosses and workers are, inventors are, so on and so forth. And this is just one area of the economy that provides a flourishing civilization. And the thing is that, without these markets, guess what? Where would it be? It would be basically how it looks in the Great Depression. Without these markets, it would be kind of what the world looked like for 10,000 years, right? I mean, there's more prosperity, there's more opportunity here actually compared to ever before, right? I would say so at this time. This is 2017. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to use the internet, you can learn quite a bit and you can actually get involved in quite a bit. I don't even have to do this. I can do a lot of things. I can be an AC repairman. I can be a wood shop owner making furniture. I can be an auto mechanic. I can be all kinds of stuff. Computer builder, programmer, on and on and on. I could be an arborist again. I could be a landscaper. I could make porches, patios, do whatever. And the thing is, though, is that given the markets, given the economy, given the socialism, given the cultural Marxism, and given how politics had ruined two of my businesses, and getting late in life, I knew that I had to get into something that made a lot of money. And this answered all that, which actually allowed me to do tons of research that I would have never been able to do, and then write tons that I had always dreamed of doing. So it all kind of came true. And The thing is, though, is that, the Wall Street industry, it's not all on Wall Street. It's hardly even on Wall Street anymore. In fact, Wall Street is actually from Amsterdam Street. And it was when the Dutch had come over to New York, and they had some kind of edifice that was kind of a wall, and this is where they were trading and that kind of thing. And then later on, they had changed it to Wall Street. I forgot why. But, without this thing going on, capital wouldn't be flying all over the place as fast as it could be. If you've got a business, okay, you got a new business, and you've got this really great thing that's going to advance the entire world or a big piece of it, okay? Now, let's say you got $100,000 to your name, okay? But this thing is gonna be very popular, right? It's just pop. Let's just call it popular, because it's gonna solve people's problems, or it's a very big curiosity or something. Okay, well, you actually need hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. Well, the only way you're actually going to get the money like that is you're not going to go to a bank, because I'm telling you now, if you go to a bank, you could even go to a few banks, but the case is that, the amount of money that you need in order to build the factories as big as you need them, or build all of the restaurants everywhere because there's such a hit, or distribute all of your warehouses, etc., around the country or around the world even, etc., etc., the banks don't want to put that much risk on any one investment. And so you go to Wall Street, and it's like, basically what you're doing is you're exposing your business to thousands of banks, right? Because all the hedge funds, all the traders, all the banks as well, and it's not just in this country, it's from around the world. And so they've been doing this for so long that they have extra stores of capital supply. And so now, instead of taking 100 years to get your product or service out to everyone in the world, you can do it in under a few years, right? This is not possible any other way. And so when you get that done, and that service is out there to everybody, then civilization can use it, and then it advances even further. It's an exponential process. And by that, I mean that, let's say there was no internet, right? I wouldn't even be able to talk to you about a lot of this stuff. I would be out there working at whatever, maybe hacking trees, maybe doing something else in a different state. I don't know. But I sure wouldn't be here. and that's the thing. So what I'm doing is learning, curating information, and then figuring out things. And then I become the service and the inventor, which inspires others, which services others. That had it not been for me, as an example, I'm not like some great help, but perhaps it's helpful to some people that wind up changing things for the better. And the more people that everybody can do that to, the higher that we can raise civilization. Civilization was just a bunch of sticks and leaves. It was no more than the twinkling sun off of a dewdrop on a leaf, wriggling in the wind and the breeze. At some point long ago, and now look at it around you. I mean, it can be seen from any continent. Even if it's not very advanced in the continent that you're in, it's still visible. It's just a shining pearl off in the distance. And but it started out as sticks and leaves, but what helps is that people got pens and books and then printing presses, and that information got out there. And so when people are inspired by these services, these products, these tools, these medicines, and so on and so forth, then they're able to make even more. And it's like building a big skyscraper. So now they can get to the next floor. We don't know what the next floor is. We're on this floor, but I'll tell you what, they didn't know what this floor was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, especially 100 years ago, and especially a few hundred years ago. And there's no way they could have comprehended this floor thousands of years ago. This is like magic. This is a magical dream to the people back there. And so these things work exponentially, and the reason why the America works so quickly is because of the capitalism, and because the Christians don't let people hack their children so that they don't wind up being voodoo murderers and criminals getting themselves killed or in jails with bad records, and then they aren't trustworthy later on in life. So the masters don't want to apprentice them, right? Because if you can't trust your apprentice, then you're not going to take them in. And if they're only up to no good, then they're not going to learn. They're just going to cause trouble. And so this whole top tier wise expert handing down to the new generations this way is why the Western civilization did make Europe, made Europe very rich, made the U.S. even richer, and thus Europe even richer. So that graduates into capitalism, right? Now people have researched, they're very knowledgeable, they have talents, they make things, they have all this stuff to trade, right? So when you have things of value to trade, then people look at you and they go, well, I got to find something of value to trade for that. So they do the same thing. And so now they're making the community. And instead of doing things with and to people, they're doing things for people. They're helping people advance. And they don't want to be left out. They want to make something of value so they can trade for what other people have of value. That's capitalism, right? So, but if they can't do that and they're stuck in murder cult, or murder politics and myths, lies, whatever they've been hacked with. Well, look at that. Had a good trade here and then I lost. Let's see where it goes. Might wind up with the loser for today. This is like the longest trade that I've ever been in. Let's see here. So as you can see, that's how that works. Now, if I can provide more capital supply, and I happen to be one of the wiser people at the top tier, then I get to decide, hey, this is a good investment, rather than just blowing money on bad investments, which perhaps wind up corrupting civilization, right? Which is the point of why I teach this practice. So, in that bit, the ideology of Judeo-Christian Westernism is the precept of capitalism, and that's something that I've observed in my studies, and I've studied it all very evenly, and the output, the frequency of output is justified by the ideology on the human spirit, the phenomena, the super phenomena. And so I simply measure output, then I measure the ideology, and I assume that the human spirit is fairly even around the world. but the ideology is not. And it can vary. And I assume that this higher level of output is the result of this most perfect ideology. That's where it comes from, so that's what I'm telling you. And when the feller with the Bible going around ramming these nails down other patriots and veterans and other priests, even Christian priests, down their throats, and then he comes to me and he says, my practice is sinful because people that work in my practice are sinful, therefore I'm associated with them. Well, I gotta go, the guy's just off of his gourd. He doesn't understand really what this is about. All I'm doing is doing a service to other servicers. That's what I do. I'm just doing a service to other servicers. And, if I happen to wind up with a substantial amount of capital supply, well, by golly, all I do is help other people with capital supply, things that can help the community. I mean, that's just how it goes. The snow peaks melt off the mountain and roll down and water the mezzanines down below, the valleys. Now the thing is, though, is that we're raising civilization, and like I explained, this is an intrinsic part of successful civilization. Yes, there are bad people at the top. Yes, the money is imported by a bad empire. That's a fact. I can prove it to you any day, every day of the week. And the thing is, though, is he's using the money. He's using the benefits of capitalism. He's not doing the research. He's not out there upholding a Christian revolution in that he's not rolling up his sleeves and getting out there and getting dirty and getting involved with every kind of person, right? Living with them, working with them, everybody. Not saying, oh, well, they're too gnarly or whatever. No, get in there, He's not brave. He's not a brave soldier. He's not a brave cop. He's not a brave contractor. He's nothing. He's just a inexperienced little Karl Marx. And he's out there acting like that Rasmutin guy from Russia, or David Koresh, or David Moses Berg, Jim Jones. You can look up those names. Cult leaders. And so what they do is they grab that thing inside your mind that you believe, and they grab it so quick, and you're not able to figure out exactly what they're up to. They're actually narcissists, and they've perfected this skill. And they make you feel guilty with the things that you know and you understand, but you don't fully understand what they're about. They seem okay. They seem like they're right. And they make you feel guilty, and it's like it's kind of like an electric shock that neutralizes your mind, but they're bewitching you. And it's like the easiest kind of thing to do to most people. And I caught him, I instinctually knew that, hey, wait a minute, this guy, he doesn't even know anything. I mean, most people in these markets are good people. They're doing greater things than anything, that he's ever done for people. And I've seen him before. He's no revolutionary. He's a sheltered man. A sheltered little mind. Which is okay, fine, be sheltered. Try to lead. I actually told him, I said, you know what, go ahead and lead. But explain to me. And he wouldn't explain, he would avoid things. So he's got no defense to explain himself and justify what he's saying as he quotes the Bible at me and saying my practice, or our practice, is an abomination. And at the same time, he's got no defense. He's only got He's only got offense. He's only got that nail. Right? So I told him he can lead and do whatever, but he's not getting by me, and I'm breaking off his nail, right? Because I know his intentions. I know narcissists. I know people that don't know what they're talking about. I know people that get off on this domination joyride on people, and you know what? They'll just keep on going on and on and on, and nobody will say anything, and so then they wind up being trouble, right? Now, in actuality, he's a socialist using our Bible. Right? The thing that's supposed to keep people from getting bewitched, being hacked, that kind of thing. Right? You don't want to be hacked and become Santeria or what do they call them? San Muerte or Voodoo or an ISIS Islamo. You don't want to be an Aztec. You don't want to be some gangster or mafia or some elitist usurper Orville overlord. You don't want people to become that. You don't need to be that. You can do things for people and just have the greatest ball of your life and make civilization. You're going to be highly entertained in capitalism. And Christianity, start out as Christian. I recommend it. You know, so there's a bunch of Saint Bernards around, and they got that wisdom inside them. They are considerate. They are on a mission. They're out there looking for people that have been avalanched. But he kind of desecrates the entire thing. Makes us all look very stupid when he talks. And then, I mean, just how he's quoting the Bible and never has any explanations. And it doesn't relate to anything in the real world. And then I know how people think of him. And that's the kind of guy that makes other people think that we're all just stupid, inept, and incapable of managing businesses or anything. Like, you wouldn't trust this guy because he's so vague. I guess. I don't know. He just kind of worked me up that way. You know, don't come down on capitalism. That's all, you know, because that's what the socialists are doing. They come down on capitalism. The cultural Marxists, they're coming down on capitalism. And there's a reason why, because if you can change the value of the mass paradigm of the way that the civilization works, then you can weaken it. It's kind of like if I could come into your machine shop and I could change all of the metrics on your measuring devices and all of your machinery, etc. Well, everything that you make from then on is going to be a broken piece of junk, and then once it becomes broken, you're going out of business. And when you do that on a mass scale to a country, first the country has to keep on borrowing more of the Marxist central bank's money, right? They import that. They want you to borrow more, and that's the kind of thing that they're into. They're into mass paradigms. They're into conquering. And they use a Fabian warfare, which means to weaken the country before conquering it. And that's how they weaken it. And this has been done over and over and over for thousands of years. The Muslims do it. The thing is, though, is that the Muslims are actually immune to the Marxists because they're already conquered that way, right? So they don't switch. But the Christians, the seculars or pagans, and the Buddhists are actually very susceptible to Marxist socialism and cultural Marxism, because it applies itself in moral platitudes, which the Christians and the Buddhists apply to. Most people are, you know, magnetized or drawn towards moral platitudes because they're parents. And it's something that carries over from childhood a lot of time. And so, plus the Western civilization is based on Judeo-Christianity, especially Christianity. And so it's just what you wake up in when you wake up in the West. There are certain moral platitudes, and diabolicism is something that's a taboo. And that's why the way that they designed socialism and cultural Marxism, they literally designed a religion there. Okay? Economic myth, sociological myths. And I've looked into the technique specifically to change the actions, the sociological values, even the value of money. Right? So if they can do that, then what they can do is, one example is they can make it so that the cost of the labor, the time and the energy from a worker is higher than the actual market price for what those workers are making. So if I'm a boss and the workers cost more than the price I can get for what they make, I have no business. And if they rule over the land that is the case, then businesses have to shut down. And so when they did that, they designed that so that they could beat the West's capitalism. And by beating that, see, these guys are masters. They're spiritual masters. When they did that, they knew what they were doing. And they would force all the jobs out to other countries. And then serendipitously, it looks like they were able to introduce foreign countries to the West to fill that vacuum, who worked under the table and also received the welfare. Socialists are very welfare-oriented. Not because they actually are very caring, at least not the masters of the group, but because it's something called the Cloward-Piven strategy, which is that if you can overload the welfare system, you can collapse the entire economy. And so on one hand, they mess with everybody's mind so that they're anti-capitalist, anti-Christian, and anti-free speech. Okay. And on the other hand, they're overloading the welfare system because people don't believe that they have to change inside and then earn their way up. They believe that they're a victim of circumstance and they should be catered to by those with more money. And so they flipped the whole civilization, at least around themselves. And so that the wiser experts, which would have climbed up the ladder higher, are suddenly lower than the fools. And then if the diabolical ones can capitalize on the fools, which they do, and I could do if I were that kind, and they climb up on the top tier, and now they're directing. Now they're the witches directing the believers, the followers. And that's how they start civil wars. And the thing is, though, is in order to win a war, you have to have enough money. But if you're economically broke and the importers of your money, which is the global central bank empire, if they take that away and you're economically broke anyway, then you can't win a war. They can fund whoever they want to come in and say, oh, we're here under humanitarian guise, and we're going to help these poor people out, because it looks like the government has become the government and the actual original people, those capitalists and those Christians, those people that believe in free speech and those Bill of Rights and guns and stuff, they're bad. They're so bad. They've got to be controlled. So we're going to help their enemies, which they created. It's the biggest trick I've ever seen. Basically, they create an enemy within a country to fight its own country, beat it, and then they are the elitists that take right over the country. It becomes a totalitarian hell. Genocide sets in. Then wars, when Russia got taken over and when China got taken over, the wars began, and here in Latin America, when they took over down there, all the terrorism, they were spreading the communism, the socialism, same thing. They were fighting, they get into the drug cartels, it becomes demagogues and usurpers. They're the elitists. It becomes hell. People can't get free. Well, I think I've had enough today. It looks like this trade is going nowhere, and you know what? A chart like this right here, I am not staying in something like that. So, at the beginning of the video, I started out with 150 down. I am down 162.50, which is a loss of $18.50 plus trading fees. There was I'd say about 6. On the CL, I'll say, I don't even know the exact price, but that's about $2 per round trade, so $8. So it looks like 18.50, looks like 26.50 down. So it's a $26.50 loss. Is that a big loss to me? Not at all. Actually, that's an okay day. It's an okay day because I didn't take a big hit. And I can always make some another day. So that'll wrap it up, and I wish you luck on your trading. Happy trading.